So culture begins from the top. And that's the first basic statement. Any management consultant from McKinsey, BCG, Bain, doesn't matter where they're from, they don't consult at the lower levels. They consult at the top. And the reason they consult at the top is that's where change can happen. So first, you got to get the CEO to say, I want innovation. I demand innovation. I expect things different from yesterday, today, so we can do something better tomorrow. So you got to start with the top. The demand for innovation must not come from just we want ideas and creativity. It's got to be linked to growth. There's only one purpose for a business, grow. You need to grow. If a company is not growing, it will die. So the leader has to say, we need to grow. And in order for us to grow, we need new ideas. And those new ideas are going to save us in the future. The CEO has to say this. Most CEOs don't like to say this. Because if they say this, what they're really saying is, I don't know how to manage this company into the future. And that's what he or she gets paid for. Right? So the great CEOs will go out there and says, we need to do something different and better. Best example is John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy says, look, we're getting our butts kicked right now by the Russians. They've got space, they've got satellites going around. They put a man in space. And so we need to do something different. And he puts out there fear that we'll fail. Fear of competition, fear of all those things. And then he puts out there hope. And he said, but we're going to put a man on the moon. And he says we're going to do this by the end of the decade. A very clear timeline for where we have to achieve something. A goal that's impossible almost. But when they set this type of challenges, the rest of the organization says, I can't do what I did yesterday. I've got to do something different. So in the United States, 400,000 people put their hand up and say, I'm in. I want to do this. So this is where you drive challenges of people saying, who's going to help me create a bright future? 400,000 people said, I'm in. I want to be part of NASA or part of putting a man on the moon. And then you got to make sure that you create time and space. If you're going to ask people for their ideas, then you got to give them time and space to be able to do something with it, right? And this could be 20% time, free time, and you hear organizations talking about free time. I'm talking about time to do projects, right? So you got to give that. That's resource allocation, right? So you got to give resource allocation behind it. And now these teams are working. Then what do you have to do as a leader? You got to monitor it. Whatever you monitor gets done. If the CEO doesn't show up in this room, nobody's going to be working in this room on anything he or she said was important. So what gets done has to be monitored. Right? If you monitor, it'll get done. And this consistent monitoring is important. So number one, leader has to demand innovation. Number two, leader needs to give a direction of where we want to innovate, put a man on the moon. The leader has to provide time and space for people to be able to do the projects. And leaders have to come back and check in and say, how's it going, and be interested. And whenever leaders walk into a room, we all kind of stand a little taller, and we all get a lot of work done the night before, knowing they're coming tomorrow. And that's how cultures are changed.